Recently, a YouTube commenter named Danny asked me not once, but twice, to do a video explaining the sexual double standard. Why is it that if a guy sleeps around, he's manly, but if a woman does it, she's a slut? Because that's just the way the world works. Just kidding. I mean, not entirely kidding, but there's more to it than that. What do we mean when we say the sexual double standard? In cliched terms, we could say that it refers to men being instructed to go sow their wild oats, while women are warned that no one's gonna wanna buy the cow if they give away the milk samples for free. Ugh. Specifically, it refers to our permissive attitudes toward premarital sex on the basis of gender. Contemporary evidence of how we might internalize that sexual double standard is that a lot of times in studies of hookup behavior, women report a lot more guilt after the fact than men do. The sexual double standard can also manifest in far more extreme and gruesome ways, such as the instances in Steubenville and Maryville, wherein sexual assault victims were slut-shamed for sex acts that they weren't even consenting to. When we look at where the sexual double standard comes from, it first entered the academic lexicon in the late 1960s when a guy named Ira Reese decided to study this. Even though a sexual revolution was going on, there was still a big gender divide in how those permissive attitudes were applied. Women who were getting it on during the Summer of Love were still cast in media reports and portrayed on film and television, and even just in neighborhood gossip as no good whores who you want to keep your sons away from. The sexual double standard began a long time before the late 1960s. You can hop back a couple decades to World War II, where you see public health campaigns regarding venereal diseases being framed as warnings for men to keep their penises away from promiscuous women's dirty vaginas. But to get more at the root of the issue, we have to go way, way farther back. The idea of marrying for love is a very modern phenomenon. Back in the day, women were really considered more men's property than their own autonomous beings. You want to make sure that that property is chaste and virginal and unsullied, that none of its milk samples have been given out for free. There was also a broader economic incentive for reinforcing the sexual double standard, because back at this time, particularly for lower class women, if they were to get pregnant outside of marriage, which was very easy because this is long before the days of accessible birth control, it was up to the church and state to take care of them and their fatherless children. You know what the church and the state didn't want to do? Have to pay for a bunch of mothers and their fatherless children. We see this rise of sexual stigma focused on women to incentivize their desires for premarital sex. This idea that women should be shamed for having sex outside of the confines of a heterosexual marriage is a long-standing one. What has changed is the fact that we're now living in a time of more sexual permissiveness than ever before, with women having more premarital sex, yet we are failing them, particularly in the United States, with a sex education system that prepares us only for one thing: don't get pregnant. But I do think that we can chip away at the sexual double standard by taking action on an individual basis and really paying attention to the messages that we're sending, not just to women but also to little girls, telling them that they need to be ladylike and prim and proper as they get older. Hey, you need to watch out what you're wearing, because if you're showing too much of something or something, then you're gonna give off the wrong impression. Telling girls who might be of an age when they could be having sex that they don't want to be that kind of girl.
I do think there is a difference, because making love would usually, people classify that as someone who you have deep feelings with, like a significant other that you've been dating for a while and you feel really emotionally attached. But then having sex, I feel like people will classify that as like someone who you're just kind of doing it to do it with, and you don't have like that emotional attachment towards them.
Yes, there's a definite difference between making love and having sex. Having sex is just for your physical gratification. There's little emotion involved. You don't feel connected with the person you're with. And making love is a very strong emotional bond. And it's more in your head than for physical gratification.
Yes, I feel there's a difference between making love and having sex, but I feel like both terms kind of mean the same thing and demonstrate the same thing. I feel like making love is the same thing as sex, just you'd say making love when you have a significant partner rather than just doing it with anyone. And I feel like you could make love in other ways besides having sex, and meaning like, you know, just having an attraction for someone and doing more romantic things besides having sex.
Yes, I do think that there's a difference between making love and having sex. I think that when people make love, they have more affection towards each other and there's more of an emotional connection rather than having sex. It's more of like a physical connection and it's not as intimate.
Yeah, there's a difference between making love and having sex, because making love is like you love someone, so you treat them better, and
Yeah, I mean, of course there's a difference. So making love, I think, automatically entails a deeper commitment to someone. You know, it's a deep emotional commitment, so it's not just based on the act itself, but it's based on the feelings that are associated with the act, and they're long-lasting, and they're powerful, and they're beautiful. And having sex is, you know, a momentary, fleeting experience. Like, you know, it's based on just temporary pleasure, and that's basically it.
I think I am, most likely less likely. I don't think that's going to be an overall factor. If anything, it's something we might talk about beforehand, but I don't think it's something that I'm going to be like, I'm never going to do anything further with you if that's the case.
I would definitely not want to have sex with somebody who's had multiple partners because of the risk of spreading disease, and also I don't think that I would want to risk getting pregnant by somebody who has multiple partners.
I wouldn't necessarily say I'm less likely to have sex with a girl if she's been with more partners. I think it depends on who she's been with and if they have any relation with me.
Now that is a very circumstantial question. I think it really depends on the girl, at least from my personal standpoint. But on an average, if I were to factor out all the possibilities, I think that yes, it would be less likely. The more sleep-withs she's accumulated, the less sleep-withs I'm trying to accumulate.
I think that it depends on the boy, but if he sleeps with a lot of girls, that would make me like less attracted to him, because it's just an unattractive thing to do, to sleep, like go around and then like, yeah.
I personally haven't really called anyone that, but I hear guys call girls that all the time, which is weird because usually the guys calling the girls that are the ones who are definitely by definition more slutty.
Yes, I have called somebody a slut in the past, but it was probably when I was much younger, and it was, I called a female a slut.
Yes, I both called someone a slut and thought someone was a slut, and they were both girls.
I have called somebody a slut before. When someone exhibits those kind of behaviors and sleeps around with a lot of people, then a lot of times that's what they get classified as. And typically, I don't know where that word came from, the person is a female. I mean, like, there are other words for people who are boys who act the same, but society definitely views them in a different light in that aspect. I can't really say the words that may be used for boys, but they are just as derogatory, I think, as the ones used towards girls. So I'm sorry if I've ever...
Yes, I have called a girl a slut before, and I think that society views it as like a girl just giving herself away, like not even caring about like herself.
Yeah, I called someone a slut, you know, probably not to their face, but just like behind their back or whatever, because she was like sleeping around, and that's like a known thing.
I think it has to do with guys being looked at as less emotional and like less sincere and stuff, and girls being more emotional, because guys are thought to be able to detach themselves from like the emotional aspects of sleeping with someone else or like even just hooking up with someone else, while girls like are expected to feel those emotions and automatically catch feelings and like stuff like that.
Women are slut shamed just because there's a double standard in our culture.
I think that girls are more ashamed because they're more insecure about themselves. As we're like guys, they get rewarded for like going around and having sex, but like a girl gets like ashamed of doing it.
Absolutely. I don't think it's right, but I do think that is the case just from like the first question or the question right before this. It comes back to stereotypes, and over the years that's just how it has been. I don't agree with it though.
Yes, I do believe that because I'm a woman, if I had sex frequently, I would be judged more harshly. Again, because of the double standard in our culture.
I think that women are more judged for going around and having sex because we're the ones who get pregnant and in the long term have a baby, whereas men just get rewarded for what they do and just go around and do whatever they want and have no effect to them.
Since I'm a man, and if I had sex freely, I feel like I wouldn't necessarily be judged by everyone, but I'd definitely be judged by certain people, meaning other girls I've been with.
Although it's a standard that many people or many men will not be as reprimanded as women are for that, I think socially, although they might not be shamed as much, they're definitely looked down upon or at least judged in the same kind of light. Like if a dude's just going around giving it to every chickie he sees, a lot of the chickies know each other and they're friends, and maybe they have feelings for the guy, don't like the guy, and rumors just spread, and the more people he does things with, the more people are going to disdain him for that.
No, I don't think so. I think that if I'm having a relationship with someone, I'm basing it on that relationship. So a person's past isn't going to come into play. I know that with a lot of people, they consider the past, and have that be a direct influence on that relationship at that moment. But for me, a person could have had multiple partners, and when they're with me, they're just with me, and maybe we have something that's unique and special, and all those things don't matter in that case. Vice versa, a person could have never had a partner at all. Maybe she could be the worst possible person in the world for me. So, I think you have to sort of take a person's past and their choices and sometimes their mistakes and sort of, put them aside as you approach your own relationship.